So, video 5 is going to be about, as I mentioned last week, how do you start an e-commerce business? Can't have squeaky chairs on videos, can you? So I can just start by saying that starting an e-commerce business and running an e-commerce business is extremely, extremely difficult. Look at these bags under my eyes and look at my grey hair. I'm only 31. Trust me, there's a lot of stuff on YouTube about start a drop shipping company, passive income, all of this absolute. Ignore all that. It is really difficult. It's going to take, and it does take, an enormous amount of hard work, of stress, of anxiety, of sleepless nights. Trust me, it does. Anyone that starts any type of business will know what I'm talking about. I'm going to go through 5 things that I think are dead important when starting an e-commerce business that you absolutely must think about and you must put into action first. Yes. Firstly, I'm going to start off just by showing you our revenue for last year, 2022. Our financial year is the calendar year, so I'll quickly show you how far we've come from when we launched on the 12th of January 2018 to where we are now. So this is our revenue for 2022, which is 1.6 million. When we started with just 4 grand back in 2018, we only did 35k revenue in our first year. It takes a long time to get to doing decent revenues and start employing people and all that kind of thing. Which brings me on to my first rule, which is save some money. You're going to need a little bit of money to start your business. You can't start an e-commerce business with no money. You don't need absolutely loads of it, but you're going to need a little bit just to get inventory going, get your website going and all this kind of thing. When myself and James started the business, we started with 2 grand each. That was enough to get inventory, for like ad spend and things like that, money for web hosting, money for the website in general, and a little bit for storage as well. But also you're going to need money to live off because you're not going to make a wage for quite a long time. In our case it was about 12 months. So tip number 2 is decide what product you're going to sell. Make sure it's a good product that you know people are going to want, and decide on your USP. When we started the business we were like, let's try and sell quite a few different things. It just took us a while to figure out our niche really and what we needed to do. Tip for people wanting to start an e-commerce business and
tip for people wanting to start an e-commerce business. I would say make sure you get the right web platform that works for you, because we had an absolute nightmare with that, as we've touched on before on videos and podcasts and stuff, with website breaking, which is just a nightmare. You don't want that at all. Make sure that you have the customer in mind when you design a website, an e-commerce platform, because there's nothing worse than sort of getting in your own head and designing something for you that doesn't sort of work for customers. So that would be my 2 main things that spring to mind straight away.
Yeah, they were good tips.
Thanks everyone.
Right, thank you. Say hello to my 26 subscribers.
Hello subscribers, of which I am one.
Tip number 3, not including James's tips. Make sure you've got somewhere to store your products. Yes, I know that you can do drop shipping and all that kind of thing. I'm not talking about that because I don't have any experience in drop shipping. If you're going to be holding inventory and you're starting a website and you're going to be selling products and you're holding the stock, make sure you've got somewhere that you can keep it, obviously. Now this doesn't have to be somewhere dead expensive. It doesn't have to be, you're not going to start off with a warehouse like what we've got now. It can be literally anything. It can be a garage, it can be a shared storage unit, it can even be your mum and dad's hallway. A little bit like the one we started off with in December 17. This one. So this is a picture of me on the 3rd of January 2018 with our first ever bit of stock. James had a little bit in his mum and dad's garage as well. And there we are. Our first ever storage unit. I can't quite recreate the picture. Oh well. What do you think? Have you got any advice? Okay. Yeah, it's not a bad point to be fair. Care to elaborate on that? No? Forget it. Surely that's enough proof that you really don't need a load of money to start a business. Because literally that was our first warehouse. Doesn't take much, trust me. You can literally use your mum and dad's hallway. Lighting's not very good in here, is it? What's going on? And when we outgrew the hallway, we needed a bit more space to store stuff. 5th of Feb 2018. Mum and Dad's garage. now absolutely full of clutter. But it did the job, to be fair, until we were ready to go to something a little bit bigger, but we'll get onto that another day. We also, of course, need an office to start working from, which I'm going to show you right now. So I took this picture of this office on 3rd of October 2017. That was my first day running the business after leaving full-time work. Here it is today. Literally my first office space that I use, which is my mum and dad's spare room, which my dad has now completely cluttered with all his stuff because he uses it now. In short, what I'm trying to say is you don't need loads of money to get started. You don't need a fancy office. You don't need fancy equipment. You don't need a MacBook straight away. Just use what you've got. Bootstrap as much as you possibly can. Because let's put it straight, you need to spend money on what matters most, which is inventory, marketing budget, and getting your website up and running. Also, a couple more bonus tips whilst I'm here. Get used to making loads of mistakes, get used to failing all the time. Run a business, like I said, is really, really difficult. You're going to make loads and loads of mistakes running a business. So get used to that and make sure you're prepared for that as well. So I hope this helps anyone out there that doesn't have much money and wants to start a multi-million-pound e-commerce business. You can literally start in your mum and dad's spare room, turn it into an office, use the garage for storage, use the hallway for storage, get a website up. But we are missing one very important thing. In my opinion, this is the most important thing you need to know when you're going to start an e-commerce business. You honestly will not be able to do it without this. And this is one that people hardly ever think about. It's something that people don't think about straight away when you think of the most important thing when you're starting an e-commerce company. And it is to know your customer as much as possible. You need to know your customer inside and out. You need to know what they like, what they don't like, where they like to go eating on a weekend, what pants they wear. No, but seriously, you really need to know exactly what type of customer you're gonna have. That way you then know how to market to them. So for example, remember last week when I showed you where we used to do market stalls? So we used to do pop-up shops right here. Those market stalls were rubbish in terms of getting money. We got like literally a tenner a day for hours stood there freezing cold and all this kind. The most value we took from doing market stalls in the early days was speaking to people and really getting a sense of who is buying from us, what do people want from us, if they didn't buy from us, what do they want from us, what sort of prices are they looking for. This stuff is absolutely invaluable when you start out because then you can go, well, that person bought from us, where do they shop, where do they go, we can target them with ads. So get out there, see people, speak to your customers, do market research, do little market stalls, all this kind of thing, and then you can work out how to target them, how to market them, and trust me, you'll start growing once you understand your customer inside and out.